Hey there, gang. Welcome back to Papa's Model Workshop. I'm Papa. This is my workshop. A lot of times I do these videos, and I've mentioned in the past that I really don't do a whole lot of preparation. I kind of flip the camera on and I just fly by the seat of my pants and make things up as I go. Today I actually did quite a bit of preparation. And the reason I did that is because I've gotten a lot of requests lately about basic airbrush techniques, what kind of airbrushes are good for a beginner, questions about, what kind of paint to use and this sort of thing. So I'm going to do a little bit of a presentation here today about airbrushes. I don't think I'm going to be able to get into paint today. As it is, this video is probably going to be a little bit on the long side. And if I include paint and everything else, we're going to be here for 3 days. So I might break things up into different videos and so forth. But we'll start with the airbrushes today. And let me do a little bit of my usual housekeeping here right at the start. And let's see, we've got Mac Daddy Hobby was asking about the base color. Does silver need a primer on a candy paint job? Yeah, I'll tell you what I've done in the past with candy is I usually start off my base with a silver lacquer. Now, in that particular instance, I have not primed the body. I just shot the silver right on the bare plastic, and then I use my candy color. I've never had a problem doing it that way. Now, on this is the Corvette that I've been working on, all right? This is in a candy color. This is a clear blue by Tamiya X23, and I started with a silver base. Now, the silver base that I used was a Kaleido metallic silver. Now, Kaleido is an acrylic paint, and I shot that right onto the body without a primer. And in this particular instance, I had some troubles. And what it boils down to is this: I should have known better, because acrylics require a primer because it needs something to grab onto. You need to adjust the way you apply acrylics as opposed to the way you would apply a lacquer or an enamel. Acrylics have to build up, okay, and they need something to adhere to. So my suggestion would be, if you're using silver in an acrylic, I would suggest using a primer first. Now, the primer that I feel that is just absolutely superior, it's an acrylic primer, is a primer called Stynylrez. Stynylrez is outstanding, and it was my go-to. Now, since Kaleido introduced its paint line, I've got to tell you, in all honesty, the Kaleido primer, I think, is right there with the Stynylrez. I think it's outstanding. So those two acrylic primers I would highly recommend. If you're using a rattle can, for example, to apply your primer as a lacquer, the two that I would suggest would be Tamiya or Mr. Surfacer, which is made by Mr. Hobby. I've recently started using the Mr. Surfacer a little bit more than the Tamiya. The Tamiya, I don't know, there's something, I don't know if it's the one particular can that I was using, but it really smelled awful. And I just thought that the application was not as smooth as I had experienced in the past. So I jumped over to Mr. Surfacer and I fell in love with that. So those are my two favorites. I'm not putting a kibosh on Tamiya. It might have just been that one can for whatever reason. But I discovered the Mr. Surfacer as a result of that. So I have to put that right up with the Tamiya primer. So those are the primers I would recommend. Rattle Can, Tamiya, and Mr. Surfacer. And if you're going with acrylic, Stynylrez and the Kaleido. Those are, just my opinion. Okay, let's see here. Samuel Vasquez. I had mentioned, I think it was in the last video, I had mentioned that the Vallejo liquid mask was outstanding. And Samuel Vasquez sent me a message saying that the Scale Finishes liquid mask is also excellent. I have not used it, so I can't tell you from my experience that it works as well as the Vallejo, but according to Samuel Vasquez, the Scale Finishes liquid mask is really very good. So, give it a try and let me know what you think. Let's see here. WTJR65. I showed you a Camaro. I think that was in the last video also, and I said I was thinking about doing that in gunmetal. Where is that Camaro? Is that Camaro right here? I don't see it. I'm sure it's up here someplace. I just can't find it. Anyway, the box art showed that Camaro in a gray color, and I thought gunmetal would look terrific on there. And I think I said that I was considering using yellow as the accent color, where you have a couple of stripes and so forth. Now, the box art on that kit showed the accent colors in orange, and I made the remark that I think yellow might look good also. Now, what WTJR65 sent in, he said it would look better with a blue stripe. And as a matter of fact, this one I can show you because it's right here. I think it's right here. Yeah, hang on one second, guys. I'm going to show you this, okay, as I knock my hats down. Here is a gunmetal type color, all right, with the blue. So, yeah, WT, yeah, you're right. The blue would look really terrific, all right. The thing with a gray or a gunmetal color is it's a relatively neutral color. So there's a lot of accent colors that will, in my opinion, work very well, whether it's blue, yellow, orange. There's a lot that'll work well with that. Let's see here. Jared, I want to get this right. Hang on a second. Jared Finkenbinder. I think that's what Finkenbinder. Yep, Jared Finkenbinder. I had shown in other videos the fact that I had a lot of my paint mixtures, my color mixing ratios, all hung up on the wall above my paint bench. And a little while ago, I went out to Home Depot. I got some wood and so forth, and I built my own shelves that went above the paint bench. And as a result of that, I didn't have that wall space anymore to hang up my my notes. I mean, they were basically hung up with little sticky notes like that. And subsequently, what I wound up doing is I put them into a 3-ring binder like this. All right, so now I can just thumb through like a recipe book and look up my mixing ratios. Anyway, what Jared sent in, and this is a good idea. This never occurred to me. He said you can string like a clothesline across the paint bench, and you can hang the notes on that. So I thought that was a pretty innovative idea. So thanks for sending that in. And my Uncle Ken down in Tennessee. Now I had showed this this Lil Jon Butera kit. Okay, and here it is in black. All right, and I had mentioned that I thought that kit would look good in this green color. This is a Model Masters acrylic. So Uncle Ken sent me a message saying, don't change it, it looks good in the black. Did I write down specifically what he said? Yeah, he just said that he doesn't like the green. Keep it in the black. So I'll tell you what I did, and if you watch my channel on a regular basis, you know that I like to do this. I like to do research on the different builds that I'm getting ready to do. I research colors, inside, outside, and all that sort of thing. I'll take a look at the engine bay to see how the engines are set up and all that sort of thing. So here we go. Here it is in the green color. And, I don't know. I kind of like that in the green. And I'll tell you what I found in the course of checking out this car, which I had not considered or thought of before, but that's why I do research on things. Take a look at that. That's like a bronzy orange kind of a color. Isn't that great? I really like that an awful lot. And I found other colors, this car in red and black, so anyway, that was from my Uncle Ken. He likes it in the black, but I found a bunch of other colors that I think look pretty good. Okay, what else do we have here? I had another something else from somebody else, and I can't find it. Okay, well, I guess I'll have to include that in the next video. Greg Rutledge wants to know what brand of paint I use. He said he was buying cheap Walmart paint and he was getting a reaction where he was getting cracks and bubbling and so forth, and he is using the paint on 3D printed resin. So here's what again, this is my opinion. First of all, to get to the root of the question, lacquers and acrylics will work. But my opinion on that is I would stick with paints that are specifically designed for plastic models. Now, sometimes that might be a little bit more expensive than going to Walmart, for example, and you get a great big bottle of paint for a relatively inexpensive price. I understand, I really do. Money's tight and so forth, and it's very, appealing to find a large bottle at a relatively cheap price. And a lot of times, you can get a big bottle of paint from Walmart or the hardware store, Home Depot, whatever have you. I know a lot of people like to use the Krylon spray paints or the Rust-Oleum. And I've gotten feedback where people have said, well, I sprayed it on and it looks great. I don't see the problem. It's kind of a roll of the dice, I think. I think in most cases, when you initially apply it, it does go on very nicely. And when you're all done and it's dry, a lot of times it'll look really good. The problem comes into play is down the line, okay? Sometimes those paints will tend to fade or even crack. It's a roll of the dice, as I mentioned. Sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. So that's why, in my opinion, I like to stick with paints that are specifically made for plastic models. And in my opinion, if you're going with a rattle can, I think Tamiya is the best. I know that that's a problem up in Canada because Canada, through their environmental laws, they do not allow Tamiya rattle can paints into the country anymore. I think Tamiya is reformulating their paints to comply with the Canadian environmental laws. So I think that shortly you'll be able to get Tamiya paints back in to Canada. I think. I don't know that for sure, but I think I heard that from someplace. If you can find the Testors rattle cans, those are also very good. So that's just my opinion. I'm going to go over paints, I think, in another video. I mentioned that at the beginning of this video. But I don't want to do airbrushes and paints all in one video because, as I said, we're going to be here for 3 days. As it is, we're into over 14 minutes. I haven't even gotten back to the workshop yet. But I said from the outset, I thought this was going to be a little bit of a longer video. Let's see. Finally, we have Luis Figueroa, 106. Now, he was the latest one that asked me about doing, a tutorial for airbrushes and so forth. And, as I said, I've been getting requests, quite a bit about that sort of thing. Now, I have done this in the past, going over airbrushes and paints and so forth. But I have a lot of folks who have subscribed recently, and they may not have seen that. So I'm going to go over that again. So if you are somebody who is more experienced in airbrushes and paints, or maybe you saw that video, you know, you can go get a tuna fish sandwich for this segment, or, you know, maybe stick around and maybe I'll have a thing or two to say that is helpful. So I'll tell you what, with that, let's head back to the workshop. And before I go, here's my latest on this Corvette. Okay, I've got the panel lines in and so forth, and this looks terrible down here, so this needs some more work. So I will work on that. And here we are. I've got the engine installed. Okay, this is pretty much box stock. A lot of people have asked me about these wheels down here and how I do that. You know what that is? That's simply a candy color. And in this case, this is the X23 clear blue that I shot the Corvette with, and I just shoot it right over the chrome. I've done this with 3 or 4 different builds, and I've gotten quite a lot of questions. How did you do that? Very simple. Just shoot a clear color right over the chrome. And I've got the underneath part there done. All right. This, again, work in progress. Normally, I patina or weather my undercarriage. So this has not received any of that yet. So that's where I am so far with the Corvette. All right. So I'll tell you what, let's head back to the workshop. Okay. Okay, gang, we're back here at the paint bench, and this mess here is most of my airbrushes. I actually have 2 that are missing from here. I can't find them. I don't know what I did with them. But anyway, if you're starting out in airbrushing, there's a couple of things that you want to give consideration to, okay? Now, with airbrushes, you have different options like, do you want a single action or a double action, okay? What does that mean, Papa? All right, a double action is when you squeeze down on your trigger right here, okay? When you press down, you get air that comes out of here, all right? When you pull back with that trigger still depressed, the paint will begin to mix with the air, and you will get paint that will come out, okay? A single action means you have a trigger and you simply push down and you get your flow of paint immediately mixing with the air. So that is the difference between a single action and a double action, okay? Single action, push down and you're off to the races and you're painting. Double action, you push down and then you pull back. The advantage is with a double action, you're able to regulate your paint. Okay. Now, if you're doing acrylics, for example, acrylics apply differently than, say, a lacquer or an enamel. And with acrylic, you need to apply in very light mist coats, and you have to build up your layers, all right? That's why I mentioned before, when I answered the question about putting down a silver base for a candy color, I had said if you're using an acrylic silver as your base, you should use a primer because the acrylic does need something to grab onto, all right? And that's the advantage to having a double action, because you can pull back and just have a little bit of paint coming out as opposed to just one blast of paint coming out all at once. So if you're going to be an acrylic painter, my suggestion, again, in my opinion, a double action might serve you a little bit better, okay? Another consideration is, do you want to go, well, let's go right back to this airbrush. Do you want to go with an airbrush that has a trigger up on top, as I just showed, or do you want to have an airbrush that is a trigger handle like this? For me personally, I find the trigger handles to be a little bit more comfortable. These are also a double action, all right? And you can't see this through the camera, But you pull back, and as I'm pulling back on this, I can feel that the trigger is actually kind of stopping. And from here to that stopping point, you get nothing but air. All right. When you push past that little stop point like that, that's where your paint will mix and it will come out. Okay. So this is a double action trigger handle airbrush. Okay, it's like you pull back and it's kind of like a speed bump, I guess. All right, you hit that speed bump and you pull over that speed bump and your paint will come out. All right. The other thing you want to consider is, do you want to use a gravity feed or I think I hit this and yeah, okay, there we go. All right. I'm standing behind the camera and the camera is on a camera mount and I'm trying to reach around and occasionally I bang this camera mount and things get, out of focus or out of frame. So I apologize about that. But anyway, do you want a gravity feed, a siphon feed, or a side feed? All right. These are also other considerations. Now again, in my opinion, all right, I kind of like the gravity feed. A gravity feed simply means your cup is up on top of the airbrush and you put your paint in there and it's fed down into the airbrush itself simply by gravity. That's why it's called a gravity feed. All right. A siphon feed means you have a plastic cup that is kind of hanging off the bottom. Well, it doesn't hang. It gets attached and it's fairly secure, but it's off the bottom. And you have a tube, okay, that goes down into that cup, and then your airbrush will suck the paint up. All right, that is a siphon feed. And I do have a siphon feed here, and I wanted to include it in this. I just can't find it. It's a Pashi H siphon feed. It's an excellent siphon feed airbrush, and I wish I could find it, but I looked all over the place. I can't find it. The other type of airbrush is a side feed. Now, what a side feed is, it's simply an airbrush that has this cup on the side. Okay, and it's like a little piece of plumbing that kind of goes from the cup and into the side of the airbrush. So those are really the three considerations in terms of how you want your paint to feed into your airbrush. My personal opinion, and again, bear in mind that everything that I'm telling you is my personal opinion. It doesn't mean it's the one and only right way. It's really very subjective and what you're comfortable with and what you like. But from my perspective, I really prefer the gravity feed on top. The double action gravity feed is my go-to. All right. I mentioned that I kind of like the trigger handle. All right. Doesn't mean I don't like these that have the trigger on top. Again, it's just, preference, which feels a little bit more comfortable. These work very well and they feel very comfortable. But between the two, I just personally think that the trigger handle is just a little bit more comfortable for me. Okay, so what are some other things that you want to think about with your airbrush? Well, your airbrush will come in different needle sizes, okay? The smaller the needle, the more refined detail work. So, for example, here is the dash for that Corvette. Now, if I want to get fine line details into an area like this, okay, I'm going to want to choose an airbrush with a smaller needle, all right? So this is a Mobius, a Gallery Mobius 0.2. All right, and this will give you very fine details and so forth. This is a Badger Sotar Again, a 0.2. Both of these are excellent airbrushes for fine detail work. Now, there are other small fine detail airbrushes out there. I'm just showing you the ones that I have. So, you can go on many sites and check those out. Amazon, Spray Gunner. You can go to Gallery, check out what they have. So, these are just the ones that I have. Okay, then you have your 0.3 airbrushes. It's a little bit of a larger needle, and a 0.3 is a good overall workhorse. Okay, so if you are painting a car body, for example, hold on one second. Okay, so if you're painting a car body, all right, you may want to jump up to a 0.3 or even a 0.5. Okay, this will disperse your paint, in a little bit of a larger spray pattern. All right, so that's what I would probably choose for a car body, is either a 0.3 or a 0.5. Okay. You can, of course, go up to a 0.5. Okay. This happens to be a trigger handle 0.5. This is an Iwata Neo. There's a lot of people that have made comments and so forth that the Iwata Neo is kind of a cranky airbrush and doesn't work. I have no problems with this. Now, here's the one thing with airbrushes and so forth, okay? What we are primarily using the airbrushes for is for painting our models. If you're an airbrush artist creating art, you might want to use an airbrush of a little bit of a higher caliber than a Neo, for example, okay? But for what we do with models, I personally have no problem with that little Neo, okay? Now, I don't know what this airbrush is. I've had this airbrush for a very long time. There's no name on here, and I don't have the box or any information on it. I think I got this from Harbor Freight. It might be an Avanti. I'm just not sure. But the reason I'm pointing this airbrush out is, what the heck is that, Papa? Okay, what this is a moisture trap. That's not a bad thing to have, because what happens is, your airbrushes, of course, are connected by a hose back to a compressor. And sometimes those compressors, they heat up and you get condensation. And that condensation sometimes will go through your hose and end up in your airbrush. And then that ends up coming out and getting on your model. So having a moisture trap is a nice idea. Now, I happen to have a moisture trap on my compressor, so this kind of doubles things up, and this is on a quick release, so I can take this off and I can put it on any one of my airbrushes, which leads me to another point. A quick release is a nice thing to have, particularly, if you have multiple airbrushes, because instead of having to unscrew this all the time to switch airbrushes, the quick release is just what it said. It quickly releases the hose. So here's the hose that goes back to my compressor, all right? And this, okay, will simply fit in there, okay? All right, see how quickly I got that on there? All right, and to take it off, I just pull it down, all right? And we're ready to switch to another airbrush, okay? Again, not that, screwing and unscrewing is going to kill you necessarily, but this is much easier, okay? Let me set this over here. So that's just another little piece of information. So your 0.5 airbrush that I just showed you, again, will give you a greater dispersion of paint and so forth. Hey, Adam. And then this one is up to a 0.8, and I'm knocking down the camera mount again. Now, 0.8, you can paint the side of a barn with this, I think. This is a Bucasso, and as you can see, it's a gravity-fed trigger airbrush, double action. I use this one for things like 2K clear. Okay, now what I do is I will designate some airbrushes for certain applications, like your 2K clear. All right, this is the 2K clear that I am presently using. Okay, and 2K clear is what you would use as your top coat to give you that shine, and it also protects your paint job, is what I'm trying to say. But it's very thick and gloppy. So, this is a relatively inexpensive airbrush. I use this because in a worst case scenario, if it just gets too glopped up, I can replace this relatively cheaply. All right, and this Picasso happens to work very nicely. I think this airbrush currently, hold on a second, I'm going to show you all of these prices. This Picasso is currently at $51.99. Okay, and if I'm going to be going over a particular car body very slowly, I like the trigger action. I like this Picasso very much for applying the 2K clear. Another one is your primers and so forth. Again, I will frequently defer to a brush like this for applying primers and so forth. I usually will not apply primers with a higher end airbrush like this or the Gallery 0.5 Mobius. Okay, these will do the job. I just like to use kind of I don't want to call it a throwaway, but an airbrush of lesser price. Just, like I said, in case it gets so glopped up that I have to replace it, it's relatively inexpensive to replace. Adam, do you want me to turn that light on for you?
I can do it.
You got it? Okay. Adam's down here, everybody. So in the 0.5 airbrush range, I showed you the Neo already. Okay, and we do have the Gallery airbrush. This is a Mobius TG5. All right, and this is actually a really very, very nice airbrush. Okay, works very well. It's very comfortable in your hand. When you're working, you want something that's got some substance behind it and is comfortable. The atomization on this is wonderful. So it's one that I like to use. The other Gallery trigger airbrush is the Swallowtail. All right, again, these are double action, okay, and it's a gravity feed. Okay, so these are the airbrushes that I use. Overall, I'll tell you, dollar for dollar, the one that I really like to go to quite a bit is this Mobius 0.3. It's a workhorse, easy to clean, very comfortable, and the trigger on top, see how it has that little concave area, so it's very comfortable to use, even though I have mentioned that I prefer the trigger handle. Okay, that Mobius that I just showed you in the 0.3, I go to that quite a lot. Okay, so what I would suggest if you're a brand new person getting into airbrushing, the overall pick, I think, that I would go to is a choice between two. I think the Iwata Eclipse is an excellent airbrush. This is a 0.5, all right, and you can't go wrong with this. Again, it atomizes the paint very, very nicely. It's an airbrush that is almost foolproof. So the thing with the Iwata, though, is it's a bit expensive. This airbrush, as I am filming this today on November 15th, 2025, I want to give you the date so the prices are relevant to whatever time period that you're watching this. If you are watching this a year or two from today, then this price might not be relevant. But as of today, November 15th of 2025, this airbrush is $170. I cannot say that it's not worth that amount of money. This is an excellent airbrush. If you want an airbrush of comparable quality, I would point to this Mobius .3. All right, and it is a .3, but I think you can get a .5 needle in here, or you can go with this Mobius .5 right here. The difference being in price is, as I said, that Eclipse, the Iwata Eclipse is 170. The Gallery Mobius is $64.99, and the TG5, okay, that's this one, the trigger handle, okay, that's a .5, that's $109.99. Okay, so you will get the quality, in my opinion, again, for doing models with these two airbrushes. Okay, you will get the similar quality, but a much less price. Okay, again, just my opinion. So I think that is a pretty good introduction to some basic airbrushes. I know I have gotten some comments in the past from people saying, oh, you're promoting the gallery because gallery is your sponsor. And I just want to pause on that point and say this. These gallery airbrushes, I purchased all of them with my own money. They were not sent to me by gallery. And the reason I have the majority of my airbrushes being gallery is I bought these before Gallery was my sponsor. I just have a number of them here because I happen to like them very much. They're reliable. The price is a little bit better, and their customer service is off the charts great. I mean, they respond, and not only do they respond, but they take action upon their response, and they take care of you. And again, these were before Gallery was my sponsor. Okay, now before they were my sponsor, I could have, picked up a bunch of other airbrushes, but I stuck with the majority being Gallery because, for the reasons I just mentioned. Okay, these two I just got recently. Okay, this one right here. Okay, I just got these recently, but again, I bought these with my money. They were not sent to me by Gallery, so there was no conflict there at all, and I'm losing my camera mount again. I apologize. One thing that I will suggest, and I'm going to kind of go into this in another video, but a lot of times I have people that will send me messages about their airbrushes clogging and so forth, and they clean them out and they broke them down. One of the things that I use is this is called gum, G-U-M, and this is nice because it fits right down into the throat of the airbrush. Okay, see that? Can you see? Is that showing up on camera? That'll shove right down in there. Okay, and if I had this apart, this brush will actually come right through the front there. Okay, but I'll go into all of that in another video because we are starting to run long here. Another thing is, and this gets missed sometimes, I think, but when you take these apart, you have little airports, not an airport, but a port, let's say air jet, let's call it that, all right, that are, that's inside here, and they're very, very tiny, all right, and this is not going to fit in there, all right. Well, this is an insect pin, all right? And what I use insect pins for is for pinning small parts to my model, okay? Sometimes you have something like a side view mirror, for example, and it's difficult to get those side view mirrors on your body and so it'll stick and stay there. What I'll do is I'll take a very small pin vise, and I will drill a hole, and then I'll drill another hole in the bottom of the mirror where it's going to attach to the side of the car, and then I'll use a insect pin. Okay, so the insect pin is sticking down. Can you see that? Like that. All right. And then I can then insert it into the hole in the body. All right. Now, obviously, excuse me, obviously, you're not going to use this whole insect pin. All right. You're going to cut it to size. All right. So anyway, that's what I use insect pins for. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because these are so small that you can fit it into those little jets that I just told you about, and it will clean out those jets. So a lot of times I think those little tiny jets get overlooked, and even if they don't get overlooked, I think that sometimes people say, well, I just don't have anything small enough to get in there, and it gets neglected. So if you clean out those little jets, a lot of times that will help you out. Now, I know that a lot of you may not have insect pins. You know what this is? See if I can hold this so I can show it to you. There you go. You know what that is? That's a staple. Okay. That's a staple that I took out of a stapler and I just straightened it out. This will fit inside those little jets very, very nicely. Okay. So it's important to maintain your airbrushes. Now, I had somebody, contractors here, this is about a year ago, I guess, and they built a brand new deck for me in the backyard. The lead contractor was a gentleman by the name of Colin, and he took an interest in my workshop down here, so I brought him down here and I showed him around, and he just fell in love with the hobby, and he went out and he got a whole bunch of stuff, and I hope he's still in the hobby. But anyway, the point that I'm trying to lead up to is this. I gave him an airbrush. I can't remember if I gave him a compressor or not. I had some extra compressors here, but anyway, he got back to me a little while later, and he said the airbrush stopped working. And, I asked him some questions and so forth. And it turns out what he did was he was using the airbrush, okay? And I think if the story is right, okay, I'm going back a year ago now, so I might I might get the story wrong, but I think he was using the airbrush, and they all went out to dinner, and he set the airbrush down and didn't clean it out. If you leave your paint in there and you don't clean it out immediately, yeah, it's going to get all gummed up and clogged. Okay, so that's very important. Now, in the case of something like 2K Clear, right? When you're applying 2K Clear, you want to clean that airbrush out immediately. I mean, the second you release the trigger, clean this thing out, all right? Because 2K Clear will gum up your airbrush like you cannot believe, all right? And in that particular instance, I actually use acetone, all right, when I'm using 2K Clear, all right? So I think that's a basic overview of airbrushes and so forth. If you're going to be airbrushing, another thing that I will recommend is getting a anti-static brush. This is a Tamiya anti-static brush. So when you're ready to shoot your model, okay, you can, just go over, your model with the anti-static brush to get, any, hairs or anything like that off before you start painting. Okay, so this is a real good thing to have. You should inspect your model before painting anyway, this is a good thing to have. All right, so with that, we're coming up on 43. Actually, we're just a little over 43 minutes. So I have a lot more that I can talk to you about. We haven't even gotten into paints or anything like that. So we'll do that in another video. I hope you found this somewhat helpful. And again, remember, everything that I said here is simply my opinion. A lot of this is subjective and so forth. Let me give you those prices before I go. Okay. In fact, I'm going to just pause this so I can set this up. Hold on. Okay, so these are, basically these are all the airbrushes that I have. I don't have the Badger Patriot, and I do not have, I guess I've got the rest of them, except for these two down here. Okay, now I threw this in here because Harder and Steenbeck is one of the better quality airbrushes at $167, okay? I don't even know if I'm going to pronounce this. I might just leave this there and let you figure out the proper pronunciation. But what this is a cordless airbrush. Hang on one second. And I mentioned this, I think, in the last video. This is that airbrush. Whoop, I lost it. Hang on. Hang on, hang on. There we go. Okay. You see this little black thing on here? Okay. That's a compressor. Okay. And that fits right on the airbrush. Now that is, as I said, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, but it's $56.98. All right. It's a relatively inexpensive setup. You know, it's worth a try at that price point. We went over some of the different options: single action, double action, gravity feed, side feed, and siphon feed, top trigger, or a trigger handle. Okay, these are some recommendations on YouTube. Okay, Barbatos Rex is really very good for you know, watching for airbrush recommendations and for different types of paint. Dread FX is actually an airbrush artist, and he reviews a lot of airbrushes and so forth, so I would recommend checking him out. And this is the master, in my opinion, Don Yost. Get the spelling, okay? It's two N's there. If you don't spell these things properly on YouTube, you won't find what you're looking for. So Don Yost has got two N's in it, okay? And this is his channel, Scale Model Techniques, and you want to look up specifically Fundamental Fridays, okay? And I myself have learned a lot from watching these three YouTube channels, so check them out, okay? Again, all of these prices that I have here are as of November 15th, 2025. As I mentioned just a minute ago, Gallery is a sponsor of my channel. So if you decide that you want to check out Gallery, there is a link on this video. If you're watching on the Facebook side, there is also a link. And if you go and you use that link to get to the Gallery site, you will get 10% off of anything that you buy. Now that includes their airbrushes, their equipment, whatever equipment they have, or their paints. Okay, and they just came out with a brand new paint line. It's called Kaleido. All right, and I have demonstrated these paints in other videos. I will, you know, touch upon this again when we have the other video discussing paints in general. But you will get 10% off of the paints as well if you put in my discount code right there, PPMW at checkout. And if you decide to get an airbrush and paints, and you bundle the whole thing together, you get 10% off of the whole deal. Okay, so I think with that, I'm going to wrap this up for today. And I want to thank everybody who sent in the comments and questions before, and it's really from those questions that I decided to do this video. So thank you again for checking in with me, and I will catch you in the next video.